A lot of us think that hotels are some of the safest, most luxurious places to stay while on vacation, or just simply traveling. Well, I'm here to inform you that no matter where you go on this godforsaken earth, that there is dangers around every corner. So to do that, I collected 6 hotel hell stories to really drive down the point that there's a psycho around every corner. Now, I should also inform you that none of these stories were actually written by myself, but rather submitted to me or written for the pages Let's Not Meet and From the Front Desk. If you would like to tell the authors I sent you there, or if you would like to check out the stories in their original format, they'll be linked in the description below. With that being said, sit back, relax, turn down the lights, and welcome to my dungeon. I got 6 disturbing Let's Not Meet stories for your viewing consumption.
Psycho at the Hotel by Ghost XX Glitter. This is still an ongoing ordeal. It started about last week, and I'm trying to figure out how to handle the insanity that has quickly taken over my life. I have recently moved into a new town and have been job hunting. I stopped by a hotel on the shoreline and went in to see if they needed someone for desk work or other menial jobs. Inside, it was vacant, dark, and smelled stale. The man behind the desk had an extremely thick accent, and it was difficult for me to understand him. It seemed like he was the only person in the whole building, and I got this strange vibe from the whole place, but still, I stayed and filled out the application to turn it in as quickly as possible. I could feel him staring at me the entire time. The man muttered something under his breath, and then he took my application. After I left, I decided that I'd probably not be being accepted into the position because of the strangeness of the situation and the anger and hostility I felt while sitting in there. I rarely regret leaving my phone number and address and other personal info on the application, but this was one of those times where I really regretted it. Later that evening, I'm at home, watching the Olympics in my living room. Around 10 or so, I go into my bedroom to grab my phone off the charger, and that's when I see I have a missed call from just a few minutes earlier. It's strange for anyone to be calling me so late, but I redialed the number to satisfy my curiosity. A woman with a thick accent answers and demands to know who is calling. I politely told her that I had a missed call from this number. That's when shit hits the fan and she starts screaming, "No, no, 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 no!" X Glitter at the top of her lungs, and that's when she just hangs up. It freaked me out. She starts using my name in her crazy talk, but I figured that it was just some crackhead that maybe misdialed my number. I take my phone with me back into the living room and I sit down, and right as my butt hits the seat, guess what? My phone starts ringing again. I answer it, and it's the man from the hotel yelling my name over and over and over again. Once again, he is screaming at the top of his lungs, and I can hear the woman yelling too in the background. I could catch pieces of what they were saying, but only in between their accents, and both of them were screaming, so it's difficult to hear them at all, even if they were speaking in perfect English. I heard, "Disturb my phone, disturb your life, you can't see!" And that's about it. I hung up relatively fast and proceeded to, well, freak out a little bit. They called back about 14 times within 20 minutes. Thankfully, I don't have voicemail set up, so they couldn't leave any. My significant other came home around midnight, and I told him what was happening. He laughed it off and said that they're probably on drugs and just dialed the number to fuck with me. I really hated the fact that these people had a decent chunk of my personal information, but I figured that they were too crazy to do anything but make creepy phone calls at night. I finally calmed down enough to sleep at around 3 in the morning. About half an hour later, I wake up to my dog barking and growling and charging at the back door. I know immediately that something is wrong because she never acts like this and is fairly well trained. My husband and I sprinted into the living room and I saw a hand reaching through the doggy door. I nearly wanted to scream, but nonetheless, I held my cool and we went into the bedroom and locked the door. I dialed the police and thankfully they were there within 10 minutes. But unfortunately, the man was long gone. But I knew exactly who it is. I gave them my statement, showed them my call log from earlier, and they called the number and it turned out it was a prepaid phone, so there wasn't a lot that they could do to trace it. By the time the police left, it was around 5:30 in the morning, which was okay with me since I wouldn't be able to sleep anyways. A few hours later, my husband, who was really pissed off, and I decided to go to the hotel to try to get some information about the guy and inform the staff that this guy was nuts. We spoke to the manager there, and he told us that the man I had described to him had been fired over a year ago for stalking a housemaid. What the actual fuck was he doing in the lobby last week behind the desk? They checked the security cameras to discover that he was constantly around the hotel staring in the windows. I guess he had snuck in while the manager left the desk right as I walked in. The manager contacted the police and was able to file trespassing charges against him. Now, at last, the police are finally looking for him. At this point, I'm in tears. I had given a crazy person all of my info, and he was harassing and stalking me now. I'm receiving phone calls to strange numbers during the night all the time, but luckily, he hasn't returned to the house so far I can tell. As far as I know, that is. I contacted the references I had used on my application to let them know what was going on. Apparently, my old boss was left a voicemail around 2 in the morning on Monday of just a guy heavily breathing into the microphone of his phone, and perhaps some sex noises and moans. This past week, I haven't been able to get any sleep at all. I'm a nervous wreck. I jump out of my skin every time my phone fucking rings, or I hear a dog barking. This definitely isn't the scariest story on this channel, but it's nice to be able to get everything out. I'm sure I'll have an update within a week or two. Too long didn't read. Gave my application to a crazy man I thought was at this place I was applying to. Has been calling and harassing me ever since. So, crazy thick accent guy, let's not meet again. Welcome to Hotel California Nope by Jaguar Fabulous. Alright, this is an essay, but a lot has happened. Bear with me. My next door neighbor's parents moved from India to the UK back in the 60s. After retiring, they made a habit of heading back there every year or so to visit family and friends. Ultimately, spending around half their time traveling through India and half their time traveling through here. Long story short, one year they invite me and my family along. I was 15, now I'm 25, and thought I was some badass Viking rock prince because I had long blonde hair and red Kerrang. Fun fact, curly hair ruins the whole long blonde hair thing. I look like a shrub. Now, my neighbor's dad had planned this holiday like a military campaign. We arrive, he hands us, including my 11-year-old brother and sister, a brown folder containing our itinerary, hotel brochures, money, conversation charts, train timetables, 4 passport photos of ourselves and forms, etc. and a list of names under the header of useful people. They forgot to add Viking Rock Prince. I'm James fucking Bond. Other than that, the fact that I'm mistaken for a girl on several occasions, my favorite time being when one of my neighbor's relatives asks my mom why she lets me dress like a boy and then offers to have a sari fitted for me, I have an amazing time. Until we rock up to this huge hotel in the middle of the jungle. Honestly, the ass end of nowhere. The nearest village is a 3-hour drive down a dirt road. Just before sunset, in the fucking jungle, I pull out the brochure. It'd be safe to say that this place is under new management. There's a single light about 5 stories up as they pull into the drive. We spot a group of men clustered around a large fire. One of them stands and starts shouting something, but it's silenced by the guy next to him with a slap to the back of his head. One of the group comes sauntering over and motions our driver to wind down the window. Imagine Alfred Hitchcock as an Indian drug lord, and you pretty much have a good idea what this man looks like now, flopping his jowls through our window. He peers into the back and spots us and cracks the dictionary definition of a shit-eating grin. In broken English, he welcomes us to the hotel, glances over our reservation, and ushers us into the lobby. This is when shit gets a little weird. The place is deserted. Not the staff have gone to bed deserted. It was like whoever was fucking here noped out in a hurry and deserted this place. There were toppled chairs in the lobby and everything. Hitchcock tells us that our rooms aren't ready. It's now 9 p.m. and offers some food while we wait. In the dining room, it is huge, empty, and our orders taken by a boy no older than 9 who promptly vanishes, closing the doors behind him. We hear motorbike engines outside, and an hour later, something vaguely resembling our order appears on a variety of mismatched dinnerware. No idea where any of it came from. At this point, we are all pretty unnerved, and everyone's starting to make lame jokes to ease the tension. We are only there for one night. Everything had been paid for in advance, and we're a large group, 11 in total, with 2 people who spoke Hindi and Kuni, and it felt pretty sure that we could deal with any weirdness this place had to throw at us. That's when Hitchcock waddles in and takes us to our rooms, whisking us away like, I don't know, Cinderella's fairy godmother. Every one of them stripped bare apart from the beds and the bedside tables. Exposed wire pokes out of the walls where you expect a TV and or phone to be, and there are rectangular patches and discolored wallpaper. This suggested that someone finally took a stand against this terrible hotel and its artwork. The only decoration is this creepy little metal horse that has just been sitting beside the tables. I'm sharing with my little bro and insist on taking the bed close to the door, presumably thinking that I could summon Thor of all things. Hitchcock lingers in our doorway for a while, flashing his pearly browns and giving me what I presume to be rape eyes. I close the door on him, we dump our bags, and check to see if the door is locked, and our bro chats until we pass out. I wake up, no clue when it was. Clocks clearly didn't fit with the whole minimalist crack den vibe management we were going for, but it's pitch black. And when I wake up to hear that someone at my door, or something at my door, is clicking shut, the door that is no further than a foot from my head, what the fuck is that? At this point, I realize I'm no Viking rock prince. I'm a flying baby that plays the fucking harp. I cower under the surprisingly clean blankets until my heart stops threatening to burst out of my ribs and redecorate the ceiling. Stealthy ninja roll out of my bed and to the door. The bastard is unlocked. Fuck this. Barricade that shit with the bedside table, check if my little bro's alive, and then get into bed. See our bags, and then add them to the barricade. Notice how mine is actually also open. It turns out, though, that nothing was missing. Camera, wallet, clothes, super secret spy dossier, everything is intact. I convince myself that I shat my pants over nothing and somehow get back to sleep. Side note, little bro slept through the whole fucking thing. Morning comes and we all want to get out of there as soon as possible. Neighbor's dad kicks off about how weird the whole thing is to Hitchcock and gets about half our money back. Excellent. We head outside and my sister points out the charred remains of one of the hotel beds and what's left in it in a fire pit. Excellent. Turns out that our driver, who had been in the room in the place, had decided to sleep in the bus because he, in his own words, didn't want their funny business. Apparently, there were people coming and going all night. He woke up to see a guy, nose against the window, just staring at him. Driver hit the window and apparently scampered off into the jungle like a fucking mogwai. We give the driver a huge extra tip. Hitchcock waves at us from the lobby, adjusts his crotch, and gets it back into place. We leave thinking that this weirdness is over, and now here's where the Shyamalan moment takes place. About an hour into our journey, I decide to look over the itinerary, so I pull out my spy folder and my heart instantly sinks because one of my passport photos is gone. A perfect 35 by 45 millimeter rectangle missing from the corner. 3 little Viking rock shrubs stare up at me, mourning their fallen brother. I search the folder and ask my parents if they took it for something, and I start losing my shit. Everything from the night before rushes back. I explain what happened there, and this weird moment, and then that's when a moment of silence takes place while everyone just looks at each other. Turns out that everybody had heard someone outside their door at some point during the night, but had deadbolted them before going to sleep. But bro and I had no deadbolt. Hitchcock put us in that fucking room on purpose. Driver suggests that we head back to the hotel and demand some satisfaction. Tips galore to the driver. We arrive at the hotel and the doors are padlocked. Hitchcock and his cronies have vanished. The cherry on top of this mindfuck cake is the horse. This little metal horse that was sat on our bedside that had been placed on the steps in front of the doors. I took it as a free souvenir to fuck you, Hitchcock. Too long, didn't read, basically don't go to India. So, Indian Hitchcock. Let's not meet again. You will be dead before the police get here. By Master Brannigan. It's always fun to start out your shit with a crazy motherfucker. So, I come in and my trainee is running late because car problems. Fun times. I've been here for maybe 30 minutes when a 30-something looking black dude and a young kid, maybe 8, walk in. He's talking fast and I can't make out what the hell he's saying. He gets to our phone at the desk and starts asking about calling out. I tell him just to dial 9, and he asks about an address or what the address is, and I tell him. and then he asks me to write it down. I refer him to the business card on her desk, the whole while he is mumbling to himself. He then leaves his son on the phone and asks for a bathroom, so I direct him to it. When he returns, his son, who has been standing there holding the phone, tells him no one answered. He tries the number again, and guess what? He turns to me, and this is what he said. "Yo, let me use your cell phone." Now, I'm not going to, or I'm not about to, hand over a $600 pocket-sized device to some fucking guy who just wandered in here from the street. He can use the desk phone if he needs to contact someone. But this jittery dude isn't touching my phone under any circumstances. I'm not without pity though, but there was just something off about this guy. I'm usually right about these things, and so often in these stories you hear about that gut feeling that people don't listen to. Well, here is me listening to mine. And now, why don't I tell you my further response? Myself. "I'm sorry, sir. You're welcome to use the desk phone, but I am not allowed to let people use my cell phone." He immediately gets agitated and angry with me, and he proceeds to answer, "She didn't answer. Number she don't know. Just let me text her." His volume is increasing and he's getting angrier with each word. It wasn't a desperate pleading, mind you. He was just straight up mad at me for saying no. "You can leave her a voicemail from the desk phone," I respond. He picks up the phone and decides to try a different text. And he asks me, "Will you be willing to text her from your number? I'll give you her number." The first thing that pops into my mind when he suggested that was a time over summer when a jackass on our DNR list got to our AGM's number. I don't want some random ass person to have my personal cell phone number. "Sir, you're welcome to use the desk phone, but I will not be using my personal cell number to contact anyone for you, as it's against company policy." At this, he flipped out and started shouting at me about he and his son are stranded and blah blah blah, and calling me an asshole, be a decent civilian, whatever. At that point, I was done with him. "Sir, that's not how you're gonna talk to me. You need to leave, or you need to calm down." I always kept this nice shit-eating grin on my face throughout the whole ordeal. He shouts something about how he's not leaving, something about, stringing half of his words together and speaking too fast for me to personally follow. "Do I need to have you removed from the property, sir?" "Who's gonna remove you from the property?" "I will call the police if I have to. I'm sorry, but now you need to leave." He says something about Leafy being left dead in a ditch or something, but before that, he says this: "Motherfucker, you will be dead before the police get here." So this guy is obviously out of his fucking mind, and I realize that the door behind the desk I usually keep closed is unlocked and wide open, and he's closer to it than, well, I am. Alright, that's it. I'm gonna call the police. He continues to shout at me, and I try to tune him out while watching his movements out of the corner of my eye. I tried to focus on the phone console, though, to keep myself calm and not engage further. I explained what happened to the dispatcher while he continuously attempts to shout over me. When I tell her I refuse him usage of my cell phone, he shouts because it's the fact that he's black. I ignore him, and I tell her about how he started shouting at me and refuses to leave the property. And then he said how I'd be dead before the police arrived to the dispatcher. He starts shouting out that I was lying and that I threatened him first or something of that like. I couldn't quite tell what he was saying. I think he said that I was gonna leave him in a ditch or something? I don't know. As I started describing him and his son to the dispatcher, I think he finally realized, holy shit, I just threatened to kill someone, and the police are being called. Maybe I should leave. As soon as he was gone, I locked the doors and told the dispatcher that he was gone, but requested that an officer come by and verify they left the property. 15 long minutes later, the officers show up at the desk and inform me that they checked the lot, and someone outside smoking informed them that he had seen him leave. I just hope that crazy motherfucker stays gone. I really feel bad for his kids. So, crazy African American dude at the front desk, let's not meet again. What's an Evening Shift? By Ginger Ali 232. In order for you, the people, to truly appreciate this story, I have to describe my coworker for you. We'll call her Abby. Abby is a young, around 22-year-old or so blonde, and wears glasses. She's about 5 feet tall and 120-ish pounds. On Tuesday night, I went in for my edit shift and relieved Abby. She told me that she had a really bad day because she had just found out that her fiance was cheating on her. I tried to comfort her. We even hugged. She told me that she had been fighting panic attacks all night. And after hearing this, I, honest to God, really felt bad for her. She's always been sweet to me. She got a ride home from her dad, and I went on with my night. At about 5 in the morning, I was out smoking and waiting on my breakfast attendant when the handheld rang. It was Abby telling me that she couldn't make it in for a couple of days. I assumed that she just needed some time off to sort things out, the usual. And I went to go check into schedule for her. She had Wednesday off and was supposed to work breakfast the day after. She told me that she couldn't make it. Oh, because she was in jail. I was so surprised. I pretty much went, oh, okay, I'll let them know. It wasn't until the police chief called my boss that we knew what actually happened. Abby's fiance had promised that he wouldn't speak to the girl he was cheating with anymore. When Abby got home, she saw him in a vehicle with another girl. Abby snapped, reached through the open driver's side window, and stabbed the other girl in the shoulder arm area. Abby was arrested, and here I am covering the Sunday evening shift because sweet, sweet little Abby lost her shit and got a bitch. Abby, let's not meet again. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and I would like to just quickly inform you here that these last two stories are not necessarily hotel hell stories, but I ran out of stories for the hotel hell genre, so I found stuff that kind of loosely fitted the theme of hotels, but some of it may involve retail and all that jazz. So if you want to turn off the video now, that's fine, but these truly terrifying stories are nothing to be gawked at. So please sit back, relax, turn down the lights, and welcome to my dungeon, as we got 2 more nightmare stories to tell. A Bed for the Night by Tuft Wisdom. When I was about 12, my great uncle John came from the Ukraine to visit us in Canada. He had a lot of stories, but this one was one that stood out. In the late 1960s, John was traveling by train from his village to another to visit family. He had to change trains at one point and was dropped off at what amounted to a platform and a hut in the middle of nowhere. There was no one else at the station, and other than a dirt road that led off into the surrounding woods, there was absolutely nothing there. He waited for some time, but no train came. It was winter, and it was getting colder and darker, and just about the time he started worrying about a place to stay and some food to eat. An old woman appeared out of the twilight. She asked if he was waiting for such and such or a train. And when he said that he was, she said that it wouldn't arrive until the following day. She asked him if he needed a bed for the night and offered him a meal and a room in the house, which she said was about an hour's walk from the station. Lodging with locals was more or less standard when traveling in this part of the USSR, and Great Uncle John wasn't looking forward to a hungry night on a cold platform, so he was glad to accept her offer. He took his suitcase and they set off together down the dark dirt road into the forest. It was more than an hour away, more like 2. And by this time, they arrived at the woman's small 2-story house. John was tired and hungry. They went inside, and the woman lit up some oil lamps and warmed a borscht for them. It was the first time John was able to see the woman clearly, and he was a bit startled to realize that the old woman actually was a man. Not wanting to pry, and too tired to care, John finished his soup and asked where he would be sleeping. He led him up the stairs into a tiny room with a window that contained a single bed and nothing else. He thanked him, and they said goodnight. He then closed the door, then locked it, leaving him in the dark. Somewhat creeped out by this, John called out to him, but he did not get an answer. Instead, he heard nothing else. Figuring that they would deal with it in the morning, and that she'd probably just done it by mistake, John set his suitcase down and laid on the bed, deciding to make the best of it and get some sleep. Before he could fall asleep, though, he felt a huge urge to pee, and hoping to find a chamber pot or something he could pee in, he got his hands and knees and begun searching under the bed in the darkness, thinking that there would be a pot or something. Instead, he found a body. Great Uncle John found a human corpse under his bed and went right to the window to see if he could exit the room that way. It was nailed shut. He knew that he remained in the room and he'd probably be a dead man. But if he broke the window and tried to get out that way, there's a good chance that the old man, and who knows what else is there, would hear him and come into the room before he could get away. So he did the only thing that he could do. He pulled the body from under the mattress and heaved it onto the mattress and then covered it with a blanket. He then got under the bed and waited. Sure enough, about an hour later, he heard footsteps coming slowly up from the stairs and then towards the room. The lock clicked, and the knob turned slowly. In the gloom, John saw someone move towards the bed. Then he heard several terrifying, sickening thuds. The person had bashed a body with a large crowbar, which they then dropped onto the floor right in front of John. There was a silence. Then the person went out of the room, and the door was shut again. Footsteps went down the stairs, and again, there was more silence. John went out from under the bed, took the crowbar, and was able to pry the window open. He didn't say, but I imagine he was shitting bricks the entire time. When the window was up, he threw the suitcase out and dove through himself, not caring what was below him. The only thing that worried him was what was behind. He landed without too much injury and began running into the field behind the house towards some lights in the far distance. It turned out that it was a highway with some military transport trucks on it, and John was able to get a ride to another village where he could catch a train. He didn't bother reporting what had happened to the authorities, since at the time, in the USSR, there was a distinct chance that he would be the one who got in trouble. He just thanked God that he escaped, and decided that the next time, he would travel with relatives or take another way. Dogs always know by Manipulative Unicorn. A few years ago, I lived near a large expanse of national forest that was riddled with small winding trails and a larger set of roads that had been set up for forestry. It was about a half-a-mile walk from my home to the Red Road, as I like to call it, a relatively well-kept lava rock pathway, regardless of the season. Even in the beginnings of a snowstorm, I would still spend at least an hour a day out there. When I got a puppy, I was easily integrating him into my walks. Whippets loved following the bike and hitting up the hiking trail, sun, rain, sleet, snow, whatever, it didn't matter. He always followed me soundlessly, generally on a leash while near the house, and then off the leash when I started getting deep and deeper into the woods. He walks in my shadow, and though he would occasionally bound ahead, he would stop, turn back, and wait for me if he got too far. One day, I was out later in the day, the sun was starting to set, and it had grown very chilly, to the point where I had to put on a coat, on the dog of all things, and I decided to cut my trips short. As I was nearing civilization, I called my dog to myself and leash him up, thinking that I may have heard a car. We rounded the corner, coming out of the corpses of trees into the open ground. I slow my walk instantly when I see an older black car parked near the entrance where the pavement turns into gravel. People would occasionally park near the entrance, but for some reason, this car caused me to pause. It's bright black, with an oversized silver rims and a small spoiler on the back. There's a man in a baseball cap leaning against the open passenger side window. He's gesturing violently to the people in the car, and he speaks to them in angry tones, although I'm too far away to hear, but it's enough that I instantly decide to steer clear for the group. Unfortunately, there's no way out but on the path that they are parked on. My dog's a little spook, and he's pushing against my legs and looking up at me. It does not help settle my nerves. I've seen people in this park before. A reason I get this distinct impression that they might be dealing in something, well, very common where I'm at, I don't want to be caught in the middle of. So I skirt along the road and as far away from the vehicle as I can. Even then, walking on the edges of the trees, they look at me, their angry faces and voices cease momentarily. I hear them say something about my dog, but they just keep, well, I just keep walking, doing what I can do to ignore them. But as I'm walking, I feel my heart rattling in my chest for reasons that I'm unsure of at the time. Something just felt off about them. I am just unsure. Once they are out of earshot, I walk quite a distance from them. I put on my headphones, and I try to listen to music to lessen my nerves. I'm looking down at the pavement, trying to refocus myself, when my dog begins to pull back on the leash. I give him a light tug forward to tell him to heel. I keep walking, feeling strange and weird, and making my pace a little bit more brisk, but then again, the dog pulls on the leash. I frown at him in annoyance, unaccustomed to this disobedience, and I pull him forward one more time, but this time, I see his head turn back to look behind us, and it catches my attention. I rip out my headphones and stare back the way we came. My dog lets out a high-pitched yelp, and then looks back up at me. The man in the baseball cap is a short ways behind us. I gripped the leash tighter and instantly spun around, leading my dog towards my subdivision, where the houses are at. I figured the guy's just walking home, no big deal, whatever, but that doesn't do anything to dispel the slight edge of panic that I'm in. I have to tug him along. The hair bristles on the back of my neck start standing up. and he lets out a few more fearful yips. The dog rarely barks, and he loves strangers, so this reaction only feeds my inner paranoia. I steal a glance over my shoulder to realize to my horror that he's getting closer and walking faster. I can see his face more clearly, though he's still a distance away. I've begun to rationalize that I'm simply being paranoid. Despite this thought, I reached into my hand and do behind me, and I start fishing my cell out of my side pocket and slipping it into my jeans. The man's presence is making me anxious, so I take the first right onto the gravel road that isn't even mine, and the moment I do, I feel a rush of relief, thinking that he'll head straight onto the main road and we'll be fine, but it isn't fine. It never is. I hear the crunch of gravel behind me. The dog is yanking wholeheartedly at the leash, and my adrenaline suddenly whooshes into my bloodstream, and I feel my hands getting clammy. No. He must live down this road, I think, trying to soothe myself. It's a loop, the road I picked up on, so I know that this goes back to the main road towards where I live. But I near the end of the loop, and I glance back, and the man in the baseball cap, in the dark shirt, is still behind me, keeping his distance, but seemingly even closer than before. My full-blown panic erupts. I know now that he appears to be following me. For what intent? I don't know. I can try to get to the house, but most of them have fences and gates, and people don't really take too well to trespassers in this area. I quickly pull my phone out of my pocket and flip it open, selecting the home button. It rings several times, making my blood pump erratically. My mom is home, but she's disabled and often gets tired and falls asleep. It's about to go to voicemail, but just as it was about to do that, the phone picks up and she sounds groggy. I quickly whisper into my speaker, "Someone's following me." I blurt out as quietly as I can. She instantly asks me where I am at, and I whisper on the phone, carefully glancing over my shoulder. He's getting very close now, maybe less than 15 feet away, and my dog is going fucking crazy. She says that she'll be right there, and I walk as fast as I can without running. I realize that the man behind me is also walking faster to keep up pace, and instead of increasing the distance between us, it remains the same. The houses are far from the gravel road, so I don't know where to go. I could try and get up to a house and pound on the door, but then I wonder, what about that black car, and if they have something to do with it? What if he calls them and they come too? I'm panicking as loud as I can in my mind, but I know my mom isn't too far away, so I start to jog, and my dog's keeping up, but constantly looking back. Suddenly, a large truck comes into view. A huge wave of dust starts plummeting behind it, and it comes at a very rapid halt in front of me. And I look back to see the man in the baseball cap sprinting into the yard to the left, running over into someone's yard and then disappearing into someone behind a house. My mom is now getting out of the truck and comes over to me and starts saying breathlessly, "Is that him? Is that the guy following you?" I nod, but there's no sight of him now. He's gone, having fled between the houses and probably back out to the main road. We get into the truck, and my mom is red-faced and panicked, but it seems like she's slowly calming down. It seems like so am I. "I don't want you going anywhere anymore," she says, looking over to me. She starts driving us home, but I can't help but wondering, what if that man in the baseball cap was standing on the road? When I look back to the gravel path, it's extremely empty, except for the haze of dust we left behind. I didn't go out for weeks, and when I finally convinced my mom to let me go, I have to pack a knife in my bag and to placate her. Even then, every time I walk onto the open trail where I saw that black car, I always get nervous and somewhat angry. Angry that that stranger tried to make me afraid of the one thing that I really love. So, weird black cap guy who kinda stalked me. Let's not meet again. Hello ladies and gentlemen, if you happen to like this video, please consider sending a donation on Patreon. If you cannot do that, please leave a like or hit that subscribe button for more videos like this. I'll also have links to 2 other playlists, so if you want to listen to more, you can. This is TCR, and I'm signing off.